as he usually does, to give his big view. As I mentioned, we've got an exciting show for you today, a little politics, then a little lifestyle, but I'd like to kick off now with a guest who has been here before, Rhode Island Commerce Secretary Stefan Pryor. Come on in the studio.
Hi, Kate. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Glad to be back.
Well, it's all the action's happening. We're back in session. We're off to the races here with plenty going on.
Seriously.
So there's a lot I want to talk about.
Thank you.
Let's start off with the PawSox.
Okay.
We've seen what's happened. The Speaker of the House has said that he is not in favor of the Senate version. We're kind of a little bit in a holding pattern. What's your sense of what happens next?
Look, I think it's very important that if the House wishes to revisit the deal, that they get specific. Mm-hmm. So the deal that is before the General Assembly, it's a good deal for taxpayers. It will more than pay for itself. The annual payments by the state will be exceeded by the amount of revenue currently received by the state every year coming out of McCoy. We think the incremental revenue, the new revenue, will more than double what we need to pay annually the state's share. So stepping back from that point, though, it's a good deal for taxpayers. It's really important for Pawtucket. Pawtucket has been down on its luck, let's face it, for decades. How will we feel if a decade from now the Apex site is still lying there, fallow, undeveloped, really a blight on Pawtucket and the entire state, when we have this chance to actually make revenue come our way through helping make this project happen, and of course keeping this treasure team that we all care about, the PawSox. How would we feel if they went up to Worcester? Worcester's making noises. You don't want to take that lightly when a community is mobilizing.
Certainly don't want to take it lightly, but as we know politically, it sounds DOA over on the House side. Have you had conversations with the Speaker?
No, I haven't personally. I can't speak to everyone in the State House. Salamano, who's our superb head of marketing for Commerce, is making sure that she's integrating with the Volvo team and the Department of Environmental Management that runs the whole operation. So we're really excited.
Have you been on the boats?
I've never been on the boats.
Could be the
that
first
would ruin
year.
the race.
We might have pictures of Commerce Secretary Stefan Pryor on the boats. Something a little more locally.
Completely kill their image.
Something a little more locally, but...
Can I do it in a suit, by the way? Can I?
Yes, that costs extra.
Okay.
But the news today, Care New England moving forward with partners based in Boston looking to, again, have partners come in to take over Care New England. We've seen opposition here. We've seen it from Brown University, who's made a lot of investments in 195. They're very hesitant to see partners and Harvard come have a stake down here, and all those employees that partners would bring. This is a little bit of your jurisdiction, but you're the jobs guy, and if these jobs might not be Rhode Island jobs, what's your sense as you look at this play forward as partners has the interest and they've got the conversations going, and you have a Brown University president who, from what we hear, is going to continue to push to have more of a stake in the process?
This is of concern. That doesn't mean that it won't ultimately resolve in a way that's good for Rhode Island, but we need to track it closely. My departments are not the regulators per se. There could be an element that ultimately comes before us, but we're not the regulators per se. But still, we need to be a little cautious as the state, ultimately, the governor's administration need to approve. Having said that, thousands of jobs are at issue. Thousands of jobs.
Good paying healthcare jobs.
The important healthcare jobs. The healthcare access of Rhode Islanders is at issue. Rhode Islanders shouldn't have to go north to get their health care. They shouldn't have to find their way to specialty care. We need to be very careful about analyzing any deal here. And if Brown has concerns, Brown as an academic partner to multiple healthcare institutions here, multiple hospitals in Rhode Island, including the Care New England system, we need to be mindful of that because it means the quality of our care could be at risk if Brown is not a key collaborator in whatever results. It also means that the research and development, the R&D that churns out of these medical institutions could be at risk. We want those jobs. We want the ventures in the bioscience space to stay in Rhode Island. So there's a lot to pay attention to, and we are going to pay attention.
Okay, we're going to continue. You can see that up on Golocal today. Again, Care New England partners moving forward, but just want to get your take on that as well. Something else Golocal had reported recently on, and we've talked about this before, tax credits. You have purview over some historic tax credits, not necessarily your jurisdiction. But Brady Sullivan having a number of issues around the region and now a major lawsuit here as well. We saw what happened moving forward with Lance Robbins and the developments that he's engaged in here. Commerce looking together, put an oversight team together with a legal team to look this over.
Yeah.
You know, we look at who we're doing business with, and this came up in conversation at a commerce meeting with Carl Wadenstedt. You know, does the state have to consider who it's doing business with? Again, Brady Sullivan isn't per se, again, they're getting historic tax credits, but how do we approach this conversation?
Oh, I think we do. I think we do have to pay attention to who we're doing business with. Now, all of these scenarios are complex. Nearly all of them are complex.
Very.
Landlord-tenant disputes happen in almost every case. If you're dealing with a landlord, there are often tenant disputes. Big employers, big companies have litigation against them. Nearly all companies, Rhode Island companies, non-Rhode Island companies. So you need to be able to sift through it. Having said that, I want to give credit to Golocal. You all were among those who really sussed out what was going on with the ownership team at Hope Artiste Village. We took that very seriously. Again, credit to you and your team. And we did, in a very unusual step, I don't know how many governments have ever done this, we put protections in place to ensure that tenants and taxpayers are protected. It's an overseer role that will help to serve as a mediator, adjudicator in the midst of any disputes that result on those properties.
Broader, is this just pertaining to?
It's pertaining to Hope Artiste Village.
Yes.
So my point is that you need to look at every single case unto itself. There are specific circumstances, there are specific conditions that may occur and may make sense, and that's what we intend to do.
Take a Brady Sullivan, for example, would there be a separate legal team needed, a similar oversight structure? How would you proceed with different instances besides?
Not one of our transactions in commerce. We haven't been involved with it whatsoever, so I wouldn't want to speculate, but I would say that I think it's smart to take such steps as appropriate for the specific set of circumstances.
Okay, and finally, while I have you in here, putting you through your paces, jobs numbers. Rhode Island's been a little flat over the last 5 months. We saw a good 2017, but do you have concerns going into 2018?
No, and I would actually dispute your premise, actually. When you look at how Rhode Island's doing, we're doing so well. First of all, we're up 13,000 jobs since Governor Raimondo took office. Terrific surge of jobs. We are at 4.4% unemployment, which compares to a peak post-recession over 11%, and under Governor Raimondo alone, we've reduced the rate by 1/3. That's thousands of Rhode Islanders who are working, who weren't, and who were previously seeking work. Even if you look at the recent stretch, if you look at the most recent quarter, we're modestly up in the number of jobs. In the most recent quarter, if you look at GDP growth in 2017, the growth of our economy, if you look at the average across the 3 quarters that are recorded for 2017, quarter 1 through quarter 3, and that data was just out for quarter 3, our growth rate exceeds Connecticut's, New York's, New Jersey's, and we're equal with Massachusetts on our economic growth. So I think we're doing very well. Also, hot off the presses, we have the second highest construction job growth rate in the United States of America, second only to Nevada, and I think, look, you got to take Vegas out of the equation. That's not fair. They don't count. We have the second highest construction job growth rate in the United States. That's the definition of, at least on a preliminary basis, a building boom.
So do you consider, again, we've got the article right here, Rhode Island lost 600 jobs in December, the 4th time in the last 5 months that the state has lost jobs?
That's actually inaccurate. Prior to this month, the previous 2 jobs, we added jobs. Your data is not updated, I'm not kidding. And in the last quarter, 3 months of the year, we're actually modestly up, and if you compare the 4th quarter of 2017 to the 4th quarter of 2016, although we're modestly up, we're up slightly more than we were in 16. So I think all the health indicators are very good. You can't look at any single month. Of course not.
No, again, we looked at them across, and I said,
you can't look at any single month.
We'll talk about the
data
after.
And again, over the year, we did very well in addition to over the most recent quarter. So you take that all together, and there are terrific signs of health. And then there's the fact that 22 different businesses under the Governor's Jobs Program have landed or expanded here. And now we're taking Supply RI live so that smaller businesses can avail themselves of the opportunities that are presented by the bigger companies expanding or the bigger companies relocating here. Our economy has a lot of signs of positive growth. Now, is our work done, Kate? As the governor has said many times, no, I think she analogized it to we're in the 3rd inning. We have a lot more work to do. No one's giving up yet, but remember, we had the highest unemployment rate in America in 2013 and 14 for 7 months. And now we have an unemployment rate that's about the national average, and we're showing growth rate in our GDP that's beating other states that, frankly, in the past have beaten us or equaled us. We're equaling them, and they've beaten us in the past. So we're very pleased with how we're doing.
And wage growth?
Wage growth, look, wage growth is a national concern. But I will say that under the governor's jobs program, where we are investing in projects, where we're helping to catalyze them under the qualified jobs program, the average wage, the mean, is $70,000. So we're creating, when we're actively involved, we're creating higher wage jobs.
And we're expecting to realize, if you were to be, a betting man this year, are we going to realize these jobs this year?
Oh yeah, we're going to start to see even more jobs this year. Now, keep in mind, when a company is ramping up, it can take 3 years, 5 years, a decade for them to reach their employment peak. That's why we need to foster a number of opportunities. And look, some companies will rise faster, some will rise more slowly, some will even stumble. So one of the things that's been so important under Governor Raimondo is we don't put all our eggs in one basket. We don't make one big bet on one special deal. We certainly don't bet on pre-revenue companies. We don't do that anymore. We have systems in place where companies approach or we recruit them, and there are intelligently assembled incentives and investments that we're able to make. And we don't even pay until the jobs exist, and they're paying income taxes that we partially pledge back to a company. In other words, there's accountability in our structure. So we're catalyzing the economy, and we're doing it in a really responsible way, and we're seeing the results.
Okay, well, as I said, I was going to put you through your paces when you came in here.
I love it.
Wanted to get folks the lay of the land and what's going on in RI Commerce. I'm sure we'll have Commerce Secretary Stefan Pryor here in the future, but around the corner we've got Rick Simone in the wedding, so I'll let the Commerce Secretary go, and we'll see you
You're not going to
soon.
have me back to sing, are you?
Maybe.
That would ruin everything.
Okay, thanks
Great to see
everyone. Don't
everybody.
go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon from the Golocal Live Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center here in Providence. I am back. I know it's 2 days in a row. This once a month trend seems to be continuing. They keep letting me do a guide to forever, so I must be doing something right. So I'm here today. I've got 3 great guests, and interesting enough, I was at an event last night and I was with some engaged women that have just recently been engaged, and I got some great feedback from them on questions and thoughts, and was able to talk to some of my guests today. So we'll be covering some really good tips, trends, advice, even personal opinions, which everybody does like to hear. So the guests I have joining me today is I have Britt coming in from Blue Flash Photography. She's going to join me in just a second, and she's going to give me a great overview of the company and also some of her advice. And then I also have from Grace Church, right down the street from here, I have Chris Barker coming in, and Chris just gave me a wonderful tour of this brand new pavilion at Grace, is what it's being called. So I'm really, really interested in his overview because it's a brand new venue. And then from Stone Blossom, I have Dennis coming in. He's the creative director over there. And if you saw any of my posts on social media, and a lot of you did, and I got a lot of great comments, all of the pictures I put up from all of my guests were fantastic. So you're really going to enjoy the work and the abilities to know about these great places. So that being said, we're going to get right into it. I've got Britt here joining me. Thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thanks
and we
so
have
much
to
for having me.
congratulate her on an upcoming pregnancy. That's very soon, right?
Yeah, very soon. 37 weeks.
37 weeks.
Right in the home stretch.
Well, I was telling her before that she's, 1's nothing. She'll be fine. She'll be easy. You'll be all set. But congratulations again. You look fantastic.
Thank you so much.
So let's do this first before we get into advice and some tips and trends. Let's get an overview of Blue Flash, because I work with you for one of my clients over at Harbor Lights. And I know how great your work is, but let's tell everybody in general, because you've got a lot going on. It's not just strictly photography.
Yeah,
So let's let everybody
absolutely. So Blue Flash was founded in 2009 as a photography company primarily for weddings, and over the years we've grown to also do cinematography or videography, depending on what you want to call it. We also do photo booth and up lighting. So what we try and do is really be a one-stop shop for a lot of wedding clients to kind of make the whole planning process a lot easier for them.
Yeah, and I think that this trend of growing this one-stop shopping, call that a trend as well, is been effective. People really seem to be wanting to take advantage of knowing they can go to one person and get several of those services taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. We find that people love the experience, especially for photo and video, to have a look that's really streamlined, where your photos and your video really kind of have a similar look and feel. It brings it together so that when you're looking at it after, it has a really kind of beautiful, cohesive feeling visually, in addition to just being a lot easier to deal with one vendor for things like booking and timelining for the wedding day.
Right. Now, your services, you guys cover pretty much all of New England, right?
Yep. So we're based out of Cranston. We service, anywhere in New England. A lot of our wedding clients are in Newport because that's the big spot to get married.
Right. And we're going to change some of that when I bring Grace in, because this space is amazing. So I'm really excited to talk about them. So we've got a lot that's been evolving in the world of photography, even just from technology standpoint of things that's out there, and what people like and they dislike, and the trends can change. Beautiful backdrops, if it's the bridal parties, how you take pictures with who. And one of the things that I think that I did when I was married that I liked was kind of like this overview of the day. It was kind of, you combined all the cinematography, and even some still pictures can go into these type of things. Is that still something that's out there? And it's kind of changed a little bit, right, of what people expect from that?
Yeah, so what we offer primarily, after the wedding, you get the photos and the video are 2 separate things. But we do occasionally have clients that come to us before the wedding that are looking for things like edited videos of pictures from their childhood. So we have a lot of flexibility to kind of customize our products to what a client needs.
And when you put together that kind of, it's more like a cinematic type piece, right, to do on the video side of things, is it that are you covering the whole day? Does it go from like the beginning before they're getting ready all the way straight through?
Yeah, absolutely. So for both photo and video, what we always try and do, and all of our packages include 8 hours of photo or video coverage. So for most folks, we suggest an hour to an hour and a half of prep coverage. So usually that's the last, the final steps of getting ready. So final makeup touches, final hair touches, maybe putting the dress on, so that when you look through the photos or at the video, there's a clear beginning, and it really starts the storytelling arc to be able to start there. And then we travel through the wedding day with the couple. So right through the ceremony and the reception. We're there for all the fun stuff.
And I think the word you just used, storytelling, I think that's perfect. I think that's a perfect example of how to describe it, because there's a lot of emotion in the storytelling, and these are memories that you obviously want to keep and become important. So that being said, how do you start this whole thing? There's a lot of great background, a lot of great information, but what's one of the biggest pieces of advice you give people when they're starting this whole process?
Yeah, absolutely. When a couple is looking for a photographer, the biggest thing we tell them, whether they're looking at us or another photographer, we always suggest asking for full wedding galleries. So you want to see what all the photos look like from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. A portfolio is awesome. You know, it's always great to see the best, 20 or 30 photos that, a photographer has taken throughout the year. But to see a full wedding gallery from beginning to end gives you a really good idea of what your wedding photos are going to look like and whether or not you're going to like that product. So at Blue Flash, when a client reaches out, we always send them a couple. And if we've shot at their wedding venue before, we always provide prior work at the venue so that they can see and really visualize what the final product would look like.
And ladies, that's for you, because that was an awesome tip right there. And Britt and I were talking about this. I think that tip alone is, and I wouldn't have thought of that. I like you, I would have looked at just quick pictures that are on Instagram or Pinterest or whatever out there. And you're right, it doesn't give you a full scope. So to be fair to yourselves, that's an awesome tip there. So from a trend standpoint, you got something new that's kind of evolving too, that's started recently, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of years ago, we acquired a drone, so we provide aerial videography.
It's just crazy.
We provide aerial videography for weddings, which is a lot of fun to incorporate in your wedding video. You get to